Lieutenant Commander stepped off the transport shuttle and took her first breath of recycled station air. Galactic Academy Station, Meridian hung in the space between three star systems and served as neutral ground for 12 different species. The Galactic Council had built it as a symbol of unity, but could already see the cracks in that dream. The docking bay was divided into invisible sections. Human cadets clustered near the left wall, while a group of tall, scaled beings with sharp teeth and golden eyes occupied the right. These were the apex predators from a world where everything either hunted or was hunted. They moved with the easy grace of creatures who had never known what it meant to be prey. A thin alien with gray skin and 4 arms approached. This was Administrator, the station's director. He walked quickly and kept glancing at thee as if expecting them to pounce at any moment. "Commander, welcome to Station Meridian," said. His voice was high and nervous. "I must warn you that your assignment here is considered extremely dangerous. The last 3 human instructors requested transfers within 2 months." Smiled, "I don't transfer easy." Led her through winding corridors that separated species quarters like a maze designed to prevent accidental meetings. They passed through security checkpoints, where guards scanned them with devices that hummed and beeped. "The Dominion and the Terran Alliance nearly went to war 2 years ago," explained. "The Council believes that training young cadets together will build understanding between species, but they do not see other species as equals. To them, there are predators and there is prey." "And humans are prey?" asked. "You have no claws, no fangs, no natural weapons. In culture, this makes you beneath consideration." Stopped at a door marked with human symbols. "Your quarters, Commander. I suggest you stay inside them when not on duty." Thanked him and entered her small room. Through the window, she could see the training yard below. Human cadets ran drills on one side while cadets sparred with practice weapons on the other. A clear line ran down the middle of the yard. Nobody crossed it. The next morning met her fellow instructor. His name was, and he was. He stood 7 feet tall with scales the color of dried blood and eyes that tracked every movement made. When she extended her hand in greeting, he stared at it like she had offered him garbage. "You are the new human," said. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "I will give you the same warning I gave the others. Do not challenge dominance. Do not make eye contact for too long. Do not bare your teeth. Any of these actions will trigger our hunting instincts." "What happens then?" asked. "Then I cannot guarantee your safety." Turned and walked toward the training yard. "Come, you must meet your cadets." The mixed unit consisted of 20 cadets from 5 different species. The 8 humans stood apart from the 7. Between them were 3 like Administrator and 2. Nobody spoke to anyone outside their own species group. Studied the humans. A young man named Danny stood at the front. His file said he was top of his tactical class but struggled with relations. Beside him was Park, a specialist who could speak 14 alien languages. They both looked at with hope and fear in their eyes. The cadets watched her with something else entirely. Hunger, maybe, or curiosity about what their prey looked like up close. "I am Lieutenant Commander," she announced. "Starting today, you will train as one unit, not as or humans or one unit." A cadet named stepped forward. He was young but already massive, with scars on his snout that spoke of many fights won. "We do not take orders from prey creatures." "Then you will fail this program and bring shame to your families," replied calmly. "Your choice." His golden eyes narrowed. A low growl built in his throat, moved between them, blocking the young's path. "Enough," commanded. "We will observe the humans' methods for now." The first day of training was a disaster. Every exercise that required cooperation fell apart, refused to follow human tactical commands. Humans flinched whenever moved too quickly. They tried to mediate but only made things worse. By evening, sat alone in the station garden, a small green space filled with plants from a dozen worlds. She was folding a piece of paper into the shape of a bird when she heard breathing behind her. Turned slowly. A small child crouched behind a flowering bush. He was maybe 7 years old, with scales that had not yet darkened to adult colors. His golden eyes watched her with intense curiosity. "Hello there," said softly. The child did not answer. He tilted his head, studying the paper in her hands. "It is called a crane," explained. "A bird from my home world." The child crept closer. His hunting instincts were immature, clumsy. He moved like a kitten pretending to be a tiger. Footsteps thundered through the garden. Security officers burst through the doorway, followed by a female in diplomatic robes. She was tall and powerful, with calculating eyes that took in the scene instantly. The female commanded, "Come here immediately." The child scrambled to his mother's side. The female turned her gaze on, and there was no warmth in it. "I am ambassador," she said coldly. "You were alone with my son. Explain yourself." "I was folding paper. He was watching, that is all." Stepped closer. She was half a foot taller than and could have killed her with one swipe of her claws. Approaching a child uninvited is a challenge to family honor. Do you understand what that means? Met her eyes without flinching. "I meant no challenge. I apologize if my presence caused offense." Stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned and swept out of the garden, dragging behind her. The child looked back once, his eyes finding paper crane where it sat on the bench. Watched them go. She understood something now that the previous instructors had missed. They were not just proud, they were afraid. Their entire culture rested on being the greatest predators in the galaxy. Humans, with their strange persistence and impossible achievements, threatened everything they believed about themselves. Back in her quarters, shared her theory with Danny and over a late meal. "So they hate us because we scare them?" Danny asked. "They hate us because we should not exist," replied. "We have no claws, no fangs, no armor. By their logic, we should have been eaten by something bigger a million years ago. Instead, we spread across the stars." She paused. "That terrifies them more than any weapon." Nodded slowly. "How do we fix that?" Looked out the window at the station spinning slowly through the void. Somewhere in the diplomatic quarters, a small child was probably being scolded for his curiosity. "We start with the young ones," said, "before they learn to be afraid." 3 weeks passed on Station Meridian. Pushed her cadets through exercise after exercise, forcing and humans to work side by side. The results were mixed at best. During a navigation drill, deliberately ignored Danny's coordinates and led their team into a simulated asteroid field. The exercise ended in failure and seemed proud of it. "I do not follow prey," he announced to the assembled cadets. "My ancestors conquered 12 worlds. His ancestors were food." Danny's hands curled into fists but touched his arm. "Not worth it," she whispered. Watched the exchange with careful eyes. Was the biggest problem in the unit, but he was not alone. The other cadets followed his lead, treating every joint exercise as an opportunity to humiliate their human counterparts. After the drill, found in the instructor's lounge. There was eating raw meat from a bowl, his sharp teeth tearing through flesh with casual efficiency. "Your cadet is going to cause a serious incident," said. Swallowed and looked at her. "Is the son of a war hero. His father killed 40 enemy soldiers in the border conflicts. The boy has much to prove. He is going to prove himself right into a court-martial. Perhaps," returned to his meal, "or perhaps your cadets will learn their place." Left without another word. She walked through the station's corridors, past closed doors and suspicious eyes. Everywhere she went, species kept to their own kind. The walls between them were invisible but stronger than steel. She found herself in the garden again. It had become her refuge, a quiet place where she could think. The plants from different worlds grew together here without conflict, their roots sharing the same soil. A rustling sound came from behind the flowering bush. smiled, and sat down on her usual bench. "I know you are there," she said quietly. The small emerged from hiding. He moved closer this time, stopping only a few feet away. His golden eyes studied her face with that same intense curiosity. "My mother says humans are dangerous," said. It was the first time he had spoken to her. "Your mother is right," replied. "Humans can be very dangerous. But you do not have claws." "No." "Or fangs." "No." Tilted his head. "Then how are you dangerous?" Picked up a small stone from the garden path. She turned it over in her fingers, feeling its weight. "A long time ago, on my home world, my ancestors had nothing. No claws, no fangs, no armor. Everything wanted to eat them. Then how did they survive? They refused to die, tossed the stone gently into the air and caught it. When something tried to eat them, they threw rocks at it. When the rocks did not work, they made sharper rocks. When the sharper rocks did not work, they made spears, then bows, then guns, then ships that could cross the stars." Crept closer. He sat down on the ground near her bench, his tail curling around his feet. "That does not sound like prey." "It is not." Put the stone down. "Humans are what happens when prey decides to stop running." The child was silent for a moment. Could see him working through this new information, trying to fit it into what his mother had told him about the universe. "The other cubs say I am weak," said suddenly. His voice was small. "I am smaller than them. They say I will never be a true predator." Looked at him carefully. She saw the scratches on his scales that were half healed. She saw the way he held himself, shoulders hunched like he was waiting to be hit. "Being small does not make you weak," she said. "In my culture it does." "Then your culture is wrong." His eyes went wide. No one had ever said such a thing to him before. Culture was ancient and proud. Questioning it was unthinkable. Before could say more, footsteps approached. Ambassador appeared at the garden entrance with 2 guards at her side. Her expression was thunderous. "Come here now." The child scrambled to his feet and ran to his mother, grabbed his arm and pushed him toward the guards, who escorted him away. Then she turned to face. "I warned you once," said, her claws extended slightly. "Stay away from my son." "He came to me," replied calmly. "He keeps seeking out humans on his own. Have you asked yourself why?" Stepped closer. Her breath was hot on his face. "He is a child. He does not know what is best for him." "Maybe he knows exactly what he needs." Did not back away. "Maybe he is looking for something your culture cannot give him." For a terrible moment, thought would strike her. The ambassador's muscles tensed. Her claws gleamed in the garden's soft light. Then turned and walked away without another word. That night sat with Danny and in the human quarters. She told them about her conversations with, about the bullying he faced, about his questions. "He is just a kid," Danny said, "trying to figure out his place in the world." "He is also the son of the most powerful on this station," added. "If something happens to him while he is with you, it could mean war." "I know," stared at her hands, "but I cannot just ignore him. He keeps coming back." "What does he want?" Danny asked. Thought about it. She remembered being 7 years old on Earth, remembered growling at her older brothers during play fights. She remembered how important it was for them to growl back, to take her seriously even when she was small and weak compared to them. "He wants someone to see him," she said finally. "Not as a predator or prey, just as himself." The next morning, arrived at the training yard to find chaos, and Danny were circled up, surrounded by cadets from both species. Fangs were bared and his claws were out. Danny stood his ground but could see his hands shaking. "Say it again," snarled. "Say that humans are our equals." "We are your equals," Danny repeated. His voice did not waver even though his body did. Lunged, moved without thinking, putting herself between them. Claws stopped inches from her face. "Enough!" Voice cut through the yard. The senior instructor pushed through the crowd and grabbed by the shoulder. You shame yourself with this behavior. Struggled, she has no right to interfere. This is between predators. She is your instructor, growled. You will show respect or you will answer to me. The crowd dispersed slowly. Danny let out a shaky breath, took his arm and led him away. Stood alone in the middle of the yard. She could feel eyes watching her from every direction. Human eyes filled with hope, eyes filled with something more complicated. On a balcony high above, a small figure watched, had escaped his caretakers again. He had seen everything. And for the first time in his young life, he wondered if maybe the prey creatures were not prey at all. The training yard was crowded on the morning of the rescue simulation. Cadets from all 5 species assembled in their mixed teams while instructors checked equipment and reviewed protocols. This was the most important exercise of the month, designed to test cooperation under pressure. Stood at the command station and watched her cadets prepare. Danny led Team 3, which included and 2. It was a deliberate choice. If those 2 could work together, anyone could. The scenario is simple, announced to the yard. A transport ship has crashed in hostile territory. Wounded crew members are trapped inside. You have 30 minutes to extract them and reach the evacuation point. Begin. The simulation activated. Holographic walls rose from the yard floor, creating a maze of corridors and obstacles. Sounds of distant explosions and emergency alarms filled the air. Team 3 moved into the maze. Danny took point, his tactical training guiding him through the twisting passages. Followed close behind, his golden eyes scanning for threats. Contact left, Danny called out. 2 hostiles behind the barricade. I see them, replied. He raised his training weapon. I will flank. Negative, we go together, cover our advance. Stopped walking, his scales bristled. You do not give me orders, human. I am team leader for this exercise. Yes, I do. The 2 stared at each other. Seconds ticked away. The simulated hostiles were getting closer. Fine, growled, but if we fail, it is on your head. They moved together. Danny's tactics were sound, guiding them past the obstacles and toward the crash site. Instincts proved valuable, spotting ambushes before they sprung. For a few minutes, they almost looked like a real team. Then everything went wrong. The crash site was guarded by a heavy defense system that Danny had not anticipated. His approach vector led them straight into a kill zone. Simulated fire erupted from 3 directions. Fall back, Danny shouted. No, grabbed Danny's arm and pulled him forward. We push through. Predators do not retreat. That is not the right call. We need to regroup and find another way. His patience snapped. He shoved Danny hard, sending him stumbling into a wall. Your way gets us killed. My way wins. Danny pushed back. It was a mistake. His predator instincts activated instantly. His fangs extended and a deep growl rumbled from his chest. Being pushed by prey was a challenge that demanded blood. Saw it happening through the command station monitors. She sprinted into the maze, her boots pounding against the floor. She had to stop this before someone got seriously hurt. She arrived to find Danny and circled up, surrounded by their teammates. The exercise had been forgotten. This was personal now. Stand down, commanded, both of you. Did not even look at her. His focus was locked on Danny. This prey creature touched me. He must answer for it. It was reflex. I apologize. Danny raised his hands in surrender. Apology is not enough, crouched into a hunting stance. Your submission is not enough. Only blood satisfies honor. The situation was spiraling out of control. Stepped between them, putting herself directly in his path. She could feel the heat of his breath on her face. If you want blood, you go through me first, she said calmly. Hesitated. Attacking an instructor was serious, even for him. But his instincts were screaming at him to establish dominance. The prey creature had dared to challenge him. Everything in his nature demanded a response. Movement caught attention. A small figure had emerged from behind a holographic wall, stood at the edge of the confrontation, his golden eyes wide with excitement and fear. He had escaped his caretakers again. He had been watching the exercise from hiding, and now he was caught in the middle of something dangerous. "Go back," said firmly. "This is not safe." The child did not move. He looked from to Danny, trying to understand what was happening. His immature mind processed the scene through the lens of everything his culture had taught him. He saw a predator threatening prey. He saw the prey not running. He saw a female human standing between them without fear. Something clicked in his young brain. The stories his mother told him said humans were weak. But this human did not look weak. She looked like a mother bear protecting her cubs. Had to know. He had to test this strange creature and see what she really was. He dropped into a crouch, his lips pulled back from his small fangs. A high-pitched growl built in his throat and burst out in a juvenile threat display. Every cadet froze. A child growling at an adult was a serious matter. It demanded an immediate response. Any sign of fear or submission would mark as prey in the eyes of every present. It would undo everything she had worked for. Worse, it could trigger his hunt response. If he saw her submit to a child, he would attack without hesitation. Had less than a second to decide. She looked into his golden eyes. She saw the fear behind his display. She saw a small boy who had been told his whole life that he was weak, trying desperately to prove he was strong. And she remembered. She remembered being 7 years old, growling at her older brothers during play fights in their backyard. She remembered how they would growl back and chase her and let her pretend to win sometimes. She remembered how important it was to be taken seriously, even when you were small. Dropped into a crouch of her own, she curled her lips back, showing her flat human teeth. And from deep in her chest, she released a rumbling growl that echoed through the training yard. The sound was nothing like a growl. It was lower, rougher, more like a threatened animal than a hunting predator. But it was unmistakably a response, an answer, a refusal to submit. His growl faltered. His eyes went huge with shock. Then his growl broke into a warm, genuine laugh. She grinned at the child with pure delight, like he had just told the funniest joke in the galaxy. The tension shattered like glass. Stared at her with his mouth hanging open. He had expected fear or submission or maybe anger. He had not expected to be laughed at like a silly puppy. Straightened from his hunting crouch, his expression confused. The other cadets exchanged uncertain glances. Footsteps echoed through the corridor. Ambassador appeared with her security detail, drawn by reports of a disturbance. She took in the scene with one sweep of her calculating eyes. Her son, the human instructor, the frozen cadets, and the echo of laughter still hanging in the air. His face showed nothing. She crossed to and placed a clawed hand on his shoulder. "What happened here?" she asked quietly. Nobody answered. Nobody knew what to say. Looked up at his mother with wonder in his eyes. "She growled back," he whispered. "She growled back and then she laughed." Turned her gaze too. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Two mothers from different worlds, recognizing something in each other that had no name. Then led her son away, without another word. The exercise was canceled. The cadets dispersed to their quarters, but the story spread through Station Meridian like wildfire. The human had growled back. And she had laughed. The summons came at midnight. 2 guards appeared at its quarters with orders to escort her to the diplomatic wing. They did not explain why. They did not need to. Followed them through the station's empty corridors. The night shift workers watched her pass with curious eyes. A human being taken to the ambassador's chambers at midnight was not a good sign. Ambassador's private quarters were larger than expected. The walls were decorated with trophies from successful hunts, skulls and pelts and weapons from a dozen conquered worlds. It was meant to intimidate visitors, to remind them who they were dealing with. Sat alone in a massive chair carved from dark wood. She had dismissed her guards. It was just the two of them now. Sit, said, gesturing to a smaller chair across from her. Sat, she kept her hands visible and her posture relaxed. Whatever was coming, she would face it calmly. I have been trying to understand you, began. Her voice was quieter than usual, almost thoughtful. When my son challenged you today, you should have submitted. That is what prey does when threatened by a predator, even a small one. Is not a predator, replied. He is a child. He is, we are born predators. He is also a 7-year-old boy who growled at a stranger because he was scared and curious and did not know what else to do. Met's eyes without flinching. I have worked with children before. Human children do the same thing. Leaned forward. Her golden eyes searched space for something. Deception, maybe, or fear. She found neither. Why did you laugh? The ambassador asked. It was the same question from a different angle. Considered her answer carefully. Because it was funny, she said finally. Not in a mocking way, in a delightful way. Here was this small, fierce creature trying so hard to be scary, and it reminded me of every child I have ever known, including myself. Was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. The cold authority was gone, replaced by something more vulnerable. Has been struggling, she admitted. He was born smaller than average. Among size determines everything. The other children sense his weakness. They torment him. I know, said gently. He told me. He told you. Scales shifted color slightly, a sign of surprise. He has told no one, not even me. Sometimes it is easier to talk to strangers. Stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars burned cold and distant in the endless dark. Her reflection in the glass looked tired in a way that her physical presence did not. I have tried everything, she said. I brought him here hoping the change of environment would help. I enrolled him in youth combat training. I hired tutors to make him stronger, faster, fiercer. She turned to face. Nothing works. He is still small. He is still weak. And the other children still hurt him. Because you are trying to make him into something he is not. His eyes narrowed. Explain. Chose her words carefully. This was dangerous ground. Criticizing parenting to an ambassador could end very badly. Will never be the biggest or the strongest, she said. No amount of training will change that, but being small does not mean being weak. Some of the most dangerous creatures on my home world are tiny. Such as viruses, bacteria, insects that spread plague, and humans, smiled slightly. We were small and soft compared to everything else on our planet. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor, but we survived because we adapted. We learned. We turned our weakness into strength. Returned to her chair. She sat heavily, like the weight of her position was crushing her. How do I help my son? Let me work with him. Leaned forward. He keeps seeking out humans on his own. There is a reason for that. Let me show him that there is more than one way to be strong. The ambassador considered this for a long time. Could see the war playing out behind her eyes. Pride versus love. Tradition versus necessity. Everything had been taught fighting against everything she felt as a mother. If anything happens to him, said slowly, it will mean war between our peoples. You understand this? I understand. And you still want to try? Nodded. He is worth the risk. Made a sound that might have been a laugh in another species. You humans are insane. Probably, but we get results. The ambassador stood and extended her clawed hand. It was a human gesture, one she must have learned from diplomatic training. Took it and shook firmly. You have my permission, said. Supervised sessions only. My guards will be present at all times, and if shows any sign of distress, it ends immediately. Agreed. Left the diplomatic quarters as the station's artificial dawn began to glow through the corridors. She felt lighter than she had in weeks. The next day, she found Danny and in the medical bay. Dr. Bell, the station's chief medical officer, was treating a minor injury Danny had sustained during yesterday's chaos. She actually agreed, asked when told them the news. She loves her son. That is the same in every species. Dr. Bell looked up from his work. He was a gray-haired man with kind eyes and steady hands. He had worked with patients for 15 years. "What you did yesterday was remarkable," he said. "I have treated my entire career, and I have never seen one react the way that child did. He was completely thrown." "I just treated him like a kid," replied. "Exactly." Dr. Bell finished bandaging Danny's arm. "They do not have a concept of play. Their children learn to hunt from the moment they can walk. Everything is competition. Everything is dominance. What you showed was something his culture has no word for." "What is that?" "Joy without victory," Dr. Bell smiled. "You laughed because he was delightful, not because you defeated him. That is almost impossible to understand." Danny flexed his bandaged hand. "So what happens now?" Looked out the medical bay window at the training yard below, and human cadets were arriving for the day's exercises. The invisible line between them still existed. But maybe, just maybe, it had gotten a little bit thinner. "Now we show them another way," said, starting with one small boy who is braver than he knows. That afternoon was brought to the garden by guards. He looked nervous but excited, his small tail twitching with energy. Was waiting for him with a deck of cards and a bag of small treats. "Today," she said with a smile, "I am going to teach you a human game called Go Fish." Tilted his head. "Is it a hunting game?" Laughed, "Not even close." And so they began. The weeks that followed changed everything. Met with every day in the garden. She taught him card games and word puzzles and how to fold paper into shapes of animals from Earth. She told him stories about human children who were small and scared, but found their courage anyway. At first, approached everything like a competition. He wanted to win at cards. He wanted to fold the best crane. He wanted to prove he was better than whatever human child mentioned. But slowly something shifted. "I lost again," said one afternoon after beat him at their 5th game of cards, but he was smiling. "Can we play once more?" "Why?" asked. "You just lost. In your culture, that means I am dominant over you." Thought about it. His brow furrowed the way it always did when he was working through a new idea. "But losing was fun. I want to try again and see if I can do better. Is that wrong?" "No, little one, that is exactly right." The guards watched these sessions with confused expressions. They reported everything to Ambassador, who listened without comment. Whatever she thought of human teaching methods, she kept it to herself. The change became obvious to everyone on the station. He walked taller. He smiled more. When other children tried to bully him, he no longer cowered or fought back with desperate fury. Instead, he just looked at them with an expression that said their opinion did not matter. It drove them crazy. Word spread through the cadet quarters as well. The human instructor who had growled back was now spending time with the ambassador's son. Nobody knew what to make of it. Approached one evening after training. His attitude had changed since the incident in the simulation. He was not friendly, exactly, but the open hostility was gone. "What are you teaching him?" demanded. "Game stories, how to fold paper." "That is it, no combat training, no dominance exercises." Shook her head. "Does not need to learn how to fight. He needs to learn that fighting is not the only way to be strong." Stared at her for a long moment. Then he made a request that shocked her. "May I watch one of your sessions?" Considered it. Having a cadet observe might help bridge the gap between species, or it might end in disaster. "Ask," she said finally. "It is his choice." To her surprise, agreed. The next day, joined them in the garden. He sat stiff and uncomfortable while taught a human clapping game. "This is foolish," muttered. "There is no point to this." "The point is joy," replied. "The point is two people having fun together. Not everything has to be about winning." "Watch them play," was laughing, his small claws clapping against palms in rhythm with the song. He missed beats and started over and missed again, and each time he laughed harder. Something in his expression changed. It was subtle, just a softening around his golden eyes, but noticed. The Unity ceremony arrived at the end of the month. It was the most important event on Station Meridian, a gathering where all species performed their traditional greetings to demonstrate respect and harmony. The Great Hall was packed with dignitaries, instructors, and cadets. Flags from 12 worlds hung from the ceiling. Ambassadors sat in the place of honor among the delegation. Each species took turns demonstrating their customs. They performed a complicated bow involving all 4 arms. They clicked their mandibles in precise patterns. The humans exchanged handshakes and nods. Then it was the turn. By tradition, the youngest member of the delegation performed the opening display. This year, that honor fell to. The child walked to the center of the hall. Every eye in the room watched him. His mother sat rigid with tension, her claws digging into her chair. Was supposed to perform the growl of dominance, a fierce display that announced superiority to all other species. It was what his culture expected. It was what his mother had trained him to do. Instead, walked straight to where stood with the human delegation. The room went silent. Looked up at with his golden eyes. He dropped into a small crouch, curled back his lips, and released a tiny growl. Then he grinned with pure joy and laughed. The sound echoed through the hall. It was the laugh of a child who had learned that there were better things in life than dominance and fear. And then did something that no had ever done at a Unity ceremony. He extended his small clawed hand toward. The gesture was unmistakably human, a handshake, an offer of equality rather than submission or dominance, a bridge between 2 worlds. Took his hand and shook it gently. The silence in the hall was absolute. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Ambassador rose from her seat. She walked slowly to where her son stood with the human instructor. Her expression was unreadable. Then she reached out and took his other hand. "Perhaps," said, her voice carrying through the silent hall, "we have been wrong about what makes a true predator." She looked around at the assembled dignitaries, at the cadets who watched with confusion and wonder. A predator who cannot adapt is not a predator at all. It is merely a beast trapped by its own instincts. Squeezed hand. The humans adapted to everything the galaxy threw at them. They survived ice ages and plagues and wars. They crossed the void between stars, and when a child growled at one of them, she growled back and laughed. Turned to face her own people. That is not weakness. That is strength we do not yet understand. The ceremony continued, but everything had changed. The invisible lines that divided species had cracked. They would not disappear overnight, but the first blow had been struck. Later that evening, Danny found on the observation deck. She was watching the stars and thinking about everything that had happened. "How did you know?" Danny asked. "That first day when growled at you, how did you know to growl back?" Smiled. It was a distant smile, full of old memories. "I did not know," she admitted. "I just remembered being 7 years old. My older brothers used to chase me around the yard, and I would growl at them like a little monster. The worst thing in the world was when they did not play back, when they just ignored me or told me to stop." She turned to face Danny. Every child wants to be taken seriously, even the scary ones, especially the scary ones. Danny nodded slowly. He looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy that humanity had somehow managed to conquer without claws or fangs. "Think it will work?" he asked. "The whole integration thing." Thought about teaching other cubs the handshake game. She thought about sitting in the garden, watching a child laugh without understanding why. She thought about Ambassador taking her hand in front of 1,000 witnesses. "It already is working," she said, "one growl at a time." Below them in the training yard, a group of cadets were running evening drills. Humans and moved together through the obstacle course, shouting instructions and warnings to each other. They were not friends yet, but they were no longer enemies. And in the garden, a small boy was teaching his mother how to fold a paper crane. His claws were too sharp for the delicate work, so she let him guide her hands through each fold. When it was finished, held up the little paper bird and studied it with ancient golden eyes. "It is fragile," she said. "Yes," agreed, "but it is also beautiful, and I made it, not by hunting, not by fighting, just by folding." Looked at her son. She saw the pride in his eyes, the joy that had nothing to do with dominance or victory. And for the first time in her life, the apex predator of 100 conquered worlds understood something that humans had always known. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is play.